Good morning, everyone. This is a historic day. And yesterday, across this great land, we were celebrating Canada Day, and today we're celebrating Canada Strong Day. Because in a more dangerous and divided world, our strategy has been and continues to be to focus on what we can control, building our strength here at home and diversifying our partnerships abroad. And today, a series of initiatives we're going to announce, anchored here in British Columbia. We will catalyze, through these initiatives, over $200 billion in new investment, while advancing our trade agenda across Asia. In all cases, British Columbia is the linchpin, the gateway to a more prosperous, more sustainable, and a more inclusive Canada. And I want to thank you, Premier Eby, for your leadership in making this possible, and that of your colleagues who are here this morning. Le monde devenu plus dangereux et divisé. Le système commercial mondial est en pleine mutation. Et maintenant, nous sommes confrontés à une crise énergétique à trois niveaux: du coût de la vie, de la sécurité et climatique. La bonne nouvelle, c'est que le Canada a des solutions. Just a few weeks ago at the G7, leaders called on Canada to provide the reliable energy that the world needs, and will do so sustainably and inclusively. The Premier is just back from China, opening new opportunities for BC businesses. Today, President Marcos of the Philippines, Premier and I will join him. President Marcos is here beginning a state visit that will deepen our economic and security and cultural ties with the Philippines and, given his presidency of ASEAN, across the 500 million residents of the ASEAN countries. But to seize these opportunities, Canada has to do things differently. We need to move faster, we need to build bigger, and we need to work together. We have to be ambitious and build sustainably and inclusively. British Columbia is Canada's gateway to the world's fastest growing markets. British Columbia's power grid produces amongst the cleanest and most reliable, affordable electricity in North America. BC is a leader in mining, production of gold, zinc, copper, and well beyond. This great province has one of the world's most educated and skilled populations. And so it's on that exceptional foundation that Premier Eby and I are committed to build a stronger, more resilient, more independent province and country. Now, already it's the case that 1/3 of the initiatives that are advancing through the Major Projects Office come from BC. But today we're accelerating and broadening that momentum. Premier Eby and I are announcing a landmark Canada-British Columbia Cooperative Prosperity Agreement. This agreement is comprehensive, it's ambitious, and it will help transform the entire Canadian economy. So it's not just about one province, the entire Canadian economy, and will help fund the public services on which Canadians rely. C'est un plan qui nous aidera à exploiter notre plein potentiel en tant que superpuissance énergétique. Il permettra de construire de nouveaux corridors de transport et d'entendre ce qui existe déjà pour que nous puissions exporter nos ressources vers les marchés mondiaux plus rapidement. Il mettra à profit la main-d'œuvre hautement qualifiée de la Colombie-Britannique en élargissant la formation et accélérant le recrutement et favorisant l'embauche d'un plus grand nombre de travailleurs de métiers spécialisés. Enfin, il prévoit des mesures de protection environnementale rigoureuses et un partenariat concret avec les Premières Nations à chaque étape du processus. So what are we going to do? Well, first, Canada and British Columbia will work together to accelerate the projects that will unlock Canada's full potential as a global energy superpower, starting with LNG. By 2040, global LNG demand is expected to rise by 60%. particularly to replace high-emission coal generation in Asia and to balance grids that are increasingly going to be powered by renewables. Canada can become the preferred supplier. The federal government will work with private sector proponents, communities, and First Nations to accelerate the permitting, the financing, and the construction of major LNG projects in BC. These include LNG Canada, Silicim's, Prince Rupert Gas Transmission Project, Cedar, and Woodfibre LNG. These projects collectively will more than triple our production over the next decade, reach new markets in Asia as well as Europe, and all of them built with low emissions and in full partnership with First Nations. Secondly, we will support the development of the power, the mining, and the trade infrastructure needed to unlock northern British Columbia's full economic potential in an environmentally sustainable way. With respect to power, the federal government will provide $3.5 billion for phases 1 and 2 of the North Coast Transmission Line to deliver clean, reliable, affordable electricity to projects in the regions and their communities. On mining, the federal government will invest $500 million to expand the Red Chris mine, which will increase Canada's annual copper production by more than 15%, reinforcing our position as the reliable critical mineral supplier of choice and reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the production by over 70%. With respect to broader issues of sustainability and conservation, we will create, through this process, a new conservation area the size of Greece, consistent with Canada's commitment to preserve 30% of our lands by 2030. And we will invest in new clean energy projects across the province with a particular focus on developing wind turbine manufacturing in BC. Nous améliorerons les réseaux de transport d'énergie et que nous réalisons de nouveaux projets d'énergie éolienne pour libérer tout notre potentiel en tant que superpuissance énergétique mondiale. Nous mettons également en place les infrastructures commerciales nécessaires pour acheminer nos ressources vers de nouveaux marchés à travers le monde. The Port of Vancouver moves $1 billion in trade every single day, reaching over 170 countries. And it moves more cargo than the next 5 largest Canadian ports combined. But that success is now straining capacity. Bottlenecks are appearing and they're worsening. Ships have to wait to load their cargo. It takes too long for imported goods to get to Canadian markets. That slows our trade. It means we lose some business to the United States. It increases prices here at home. Overall, it's holding our economy back. So we're committed to change that. This is part of our drive to double non-U.S. exports over the course of the next decade. And the Government of Canada will support $10 billion in major infrastructure upgrades to expand capacity at the Roberts Bank terminal. That alone will unlock $100 billion in new trade capacity, adding approximately $3 billion to Canada's economy every single year. The potential of this expansion over time will rival the contribution of the St. Lawrence Seaway to our country. Now, while we make it easier to move trade, we'll make life easier for long-suffering commuters. In partnership with British Columbia, the federal government will provide up to $3 billion for the George Massey Tunnel Replacement Project. This will replace, as many of you know, the aging 4-lane transport tunnel along Highway 99 with a modern 8-lane tunnel, enabling Canada to export more of what we produce while connecting the economy of the Lower Mainland as a whole. In parallel, we'll work with port authorities and First Nations to maximize the potential of the ports of Prince Rupert and the Port of Stewart. These will serve as vital trade corridors for our critical minerals and other resources and provide much needed extra capacity for a growing BC economy. Now, British Columbians and Canadians have always understood that it's not just about what we build, but it's also about how we build. And that's why we're building sustainably, including by establishing a new national carbon credit framework to build carbon markets that actually work, and by expanding BC's clean grid to where it can have the greatest impact. It's also through Canada's $250 million investment in the Whales Initiative to reinforce existing protection for Canada's whales, including the southern resident killer whale habitat alongside the BC coast. And we'll strengthen protections for coastal ecosystems by preventing oil spills and strengthening marine conservation through our new Oceans Protection Plan. On top of all that, the conditions for the Roberts Banks Terminal 2 expansion will include detailed measures to protect these habitats. We're also clear that today's Canada-BC agreement will maintain the federal North Coast tanker ban in accordance with the proposed route of a new trans-provincial pipeline under the bilateral agreement with Canada and Alberta. We will build inclusively, in true partnership with First Nations, including those here alongside the Salish Sea. That means Indigenous ownership, to give communities a direct stake in the projects and to deliver durable, long-lasting economic benefits. The scale of these opportunities is absolutely unprecedented, and we're committed that our agreement will provide the model for the future across the country. We will also build in solidarity with BC workers. Through the Team Canada Strong initiative, we're in the process of creating up to 100,000 skilled trades apprenticeships. And through this agreement, we will also provide $630 million for affordable childcare in British Columbia, so more British Columbians can participate in the growing economy as they wish. Throughout, we will prioritize Canadian materials, including BC lumber, steel, and critical minerals. You know, there is a long, proud history of building in this province. That building has brought great prosperity, but also in retrospect, there have been some lessons. It hasn't always been done in the best way. I'll give a personal example here. My grandfather worked in the 30s and 40s, early 50s in the Anaconda copper mine at Britannia Beach, which at its peak provided 1/5 of the world's copper supply. Created great prosperity. It was foreign owned. The workers in that mine weren't always treated fairly. First Nations were excluded, and the environmental impact of that mine was largely ignored. This time, now, in partnership, we are building in the right way, in solidarity with workers, in full partnership with First Nations, and sustainably in a way that protects the lands and waters for generations to come. Today's landmark agreement is about building a Canada that works for all, and that's truly Canada Strong. Thank you very much for your attention, and now I would like to pass the floor to Premier Eby.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all here today. It's good to be here on the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. Thank you, Prime Minister, for your strong partnership and leadership in this process we have been through. It's obviously a high-stakes time for Canada. The big game's coming up. And the Prime Minister, you know, this is a country when the chips are down, we really know how to come through, and this is a Prime Minister that is a tough negotiator and very persuasive, so do not be surprised if you see some Moroccan players crossing the field in advance of the game. Today is a big day for Canada. It's a big day for British Columbia. Together, we have secured a landmark, generational, multi-billion-dollar agreement with the federal government that sets BC on a trajectory, a generational path to prosperity. The Canada-British Columbia Cooperative Prosperity Agreement is about building the kind of country we want, the kind of province we want, and BC's future, not just today, but for generations to come. It's all about leveraging our strengths in this province to deliver real benefits for British Columbians. It means more good jobs for workers in this province. It means more opportunities to train for better pay. It means faster commutes for people as we build critical infrastructure for the future of this province. It means less pollution as we build with clean BC electricity. And it means the kind of shared prosperity that supports strong public services, not just in this province, but right across the country. And we're doing all of this while protecting the beautiful places that make this province so remarkable. I am very proud to say that through our discussions and negotiations with the federal government, we have secured a commitment to keep the northern tanker ban firmly in place, protecting British Columbia's pristine northern coast and the $2 billion plus economy that relies on it. This agreement recognizes the role that BC will play in building a stronger, more independent nation. At the heart of this agreement is a significant multi-billion-dollar federal investment in British Columbia, including a major new investment in the North Coast transmission line, $3.5 billion in net benefit for BC hydro ratepayers, hundreds of millions of dollars in critical support for the Red Chris mine expansion, and up to $3 billion towards the Massey Tunnel Replacement Project. Taken together, these projects don't just strengthen our economy, don't just support good jobs, they also build the crucial infrastructure that our country will need going forward. The North Coast transmission line, for example, will help power growth with clean, affordable, made-in-BC electricity, leveraging our advantages over other jurisdictions around the world. Red Chris is going to help strengthen Canada's critical minerals sector at a time when the world is looking to us for a stable supply of those metals and minerals. And the Massey Tunnel replacement will improve a critical transportation corridor that people rely on every single day. This agreement also advances commitments to workforce training, childcare, unionized labor, and watershed protection. Because building a stronger economy means investing in people and protecting the places we depend on. Now, our government is going to continue discussions on federal support to build on BC's natural resource strengths through a newly established implementation committee. This committee has firm deadlines that we will work to hit together on key projects. This includes, as the Prime Minister mentioned, a federal commitment to delivering additional port infrastructure and additional support for our hard-hit forest sector and steel sectors as a result of the impact of U.S. tariffs. In an increasingly uncertain world, British Columbia can help deliver the critical materials that people need, that trusted allies need, from a stable and reliable partner, and I can assure you that was part of my conversations in every single trade mission to date, whether in Asia or anywhere else. With some of the lowest carbon LNG in the world, we can help support energy security while reducing global emissions and creating opportunities for British Columbians. Now, there's one piece that I want to be clear about. This agreement doesn't require us to support any pipeline proposal from Alberta. However, as I've said before, we recognize our constitutional position, and we do not have the authority to stop a new pipeline. We will not be going to court to fight a pipeline project. Instead, we will ensure we fulfill our constitutional obligations in good faith. Pipelines are federal jurisdiction. That's why this agreement matters. It ensures that the northern tanker ban stays in place, and it ensures that if a pipeline goes ahead, that British Columbians are fairly compensated for the environmental risks we would take on any new pipeline project. The projects that are moving forward in BC are about more than just infrastructure. It's about good jobs. It's about stronger communities. It's about cleaner growth. It's about building a future where people and families can thrive in our province. This agreement, without doubt, and I appreciate it, is a strong vote of confidence in the role that British Columbia will play in driving forward this new Canadian vision of the Prime Minister's and of so many Canadians about the role that our country can play Over the next 3 years, our province is poised to deliver more than $88 billion in new major projects. That is an enormous opportunity for our province and for Canada. At a time of global uncertainty, Canada needs reliable trading partners, stronger infrastructure, and new sources of economic growth, and BC will help with all of those efforts. By securing our fair share through this agreement, we're putting ourselves in a stronger position to support economic growth and improve the public services that everybody counts on. This partnership shows what is possible when governments work together and focus on improving people's lives. For too long, British Columbians sent out more money than we received back in federal supports. We haven't been receiving our fair share, but today that is changing. Prime Minister Carney understands British Columbia. He understands that here in BC, economic growth, environmental protection, and reconciliation are not competing priorities. Many of the opportunities before us depend on protecting the coast, safeguarding watersheds, and building responsibly. And major projects move forward most successfully when First Nations are partners, supporters, and owners of those projects. That is the formula that works in BC. That is how we create lasting prosperity. Now, the Prime Minister has been a strong supporter of this vision. He's been a tough negotiator through this process, but he's one who recognizes the strengths of this province and the role that we all play in Canada's future. For British Columbians, this comes down to just a few things. More good jobs, more opportunities to train for those jobs, continued progress to support parents with affordable childcare, major infrastructure projects moving forward, a protected northern coastline, growth powered by Made in BC, clean electricity, and a stronger future with better public services. We fought hard for BC's interests, and we secured an agreement that delivers real benefits for British Columbians. I am very grateful to the Prime Minister for his partnership in this work and for recognizing that BC has a key role to play in building a stronger and more independent Canada. Thank you very much.
Merci à vous deux. Nous allons maintenant passer aux questions. We'll now turn to questions. We'll do 20 minutes of questions. Please identify yourself and who the question is for. S'il vous plaît, vous identifiez et à qui s'adresse la question. Première question, first question.
Hi, bonjour. Une question en français pour le Premier ministre Carney. Qu'est-ce que cette entente dit au sujet du moratoire relatif aux pétroliers et qu'est-ce que ça va vouloir dire pour les projets de pipeline de Daniel Smith que vous allez voir cet après-midi?
La première partie de votre question, c'est quel moratoire? Il n'y a pas de... Quel moratoire?
Le tanker ban.
Oh, le tanker ban. Oh oui,
c'est
le tanker ban.
Oui, c'est
en français, c'est absolument... Merci pour votre question. C'est absolument clair dans l'accord entre la Colombie-Britannique et le gouvernement du Canada que le tanker ban, le moratoire, reste en place. Va rester en place. On va protéger la côte nord de la Colombie-Britannique, du Canada, en effet, et ça va être là. En ce qui concerne la route possible de oléoduc qui va être proposée par l'Alberta, peut-être cet après-midi, on verra.
J'étais Julie Landry de Radio-Canada.
Merci. Prochaine question. Next question.
Hey, John Hernandez, CBC News here. One for the Prime Minister, but the Premier might want to weigh in as well. On the pipeline, are you still prepared to pursue it over the objections we've heard from the man standing next to you?
Well, two things. One, I'll just repeat what I just said in French, which is that more detailed discussions of the pipeline, I think, are best kept to later today. I will have an availability with the Premier of Alberta. Secondly, I'll refer back, and of course the Premier, I'll refer back to the Premier's comments, which recognize the constitutional arrangements in Canada, which recognize a good faith undertaking, but also which recognize a series of expectations around any proposed pipeline, the tanker ban remaining in place, proceeding with carbon capture associated or other emission reduction measures associated with that, and full partnership and consultations partnership over time with First Nations, so Section 35 equivalent partnership. All positions that the Government of Canada support and has supported from the start, but the Premier may wish to add.
Thank you. I want to reflect on the fact that the federal government was under no obligation to sit down with us to talk about the pipeline. This is an area of federal responsibility under the law. We learned this the hard way on the last pipeline. And so the decision to sit down with us, to hear British Columbia's concerns, and to ensure that as best as possible we found a path forward on British Columbia's interests while respecting our North Coast was, in my opinion, a sign of leadership and a commitment to collaborative federalism, to Canada that works. The position of British Columbia has been very clear. There is no way that we see a new bitumen pipeline going through the north of the province, the removal of the tanker ban, and the compromising of multi-billion dollars of private sector projects. The fact that that tanker ban is uplifted, respected, and committed to again by the federal government in this agreement is a significant win for British Columbia. We have anxiety about the impact of any new pipeline project, period, on British Columbia's coast, which is why in this agreement there are very clear safeguards in place around spill protection, around British Columbia's participation. We know our legal position, we understand it, and we commit in this document to engaging when and if a pipeline proposal comes forward in good faith if these commitments are adhered to, and that is what this agreement is about.
Hi, Daria Zargar from Global News. This might be for both of you. What kind of money will BC get from Ottawa over its carbon pricing?
So the agreement between Alberta and the federal government included a carbon price that is different than the carbon price that we were working on in British Columbia. In terms of our planning processes going forward, in BC we have a system where big polluters pay, and it's called the output-based pricing system. So that obviously brings challenges for us from a competitive perspective for BC's industry. We'll be working forward about how to incorporate this new agreement and this new federal carbon pricing scheme into our understanding of the competitive landscape here in British Columbia. What's in the agreement is a commitment for the federal government to ensure that we're not financially impacted by that. So it gives us the space to be able to engage in the policy work we need to on our carbon price here in the province.
And I'll just confirm what the Premier just said, and the only thing I'll add is what's also in the agreement is the exploration of developing a more consistent and broader carbon market. That, when I say more consistent, it's called a national carbon price framework, and that's part of the work of the implementation committee, because there's a potential to broaden this out. But the first point, which is directly to your question, is, as the Premier said, that we'll make that adjustment, make whole, if you will, the province of British Columbia, and that's also be the case for other provinces that would be affected. Thank you.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, Thomas Sill from Bloomberg. Just to ask about the Roberts Bank 2 mention in the agreement. It talks about a $10 billion figure. As far as I was aware, there was sort of $3.54 billion being talked about for the cargo terminal expansion. So what's the rest of that money, and could we see that as the terminus of a new oil pipeline?
On the last bit of your question, again, I'll refer all sort of pipeline specifics more properly to this afternoon's availability with the Premier of Alberta. After all, Alberta is the proponent or is the one that should put forward the pipeline. In terms of, there's various ways to size it, and there'll be greater specificity as the project moves. The core container and other terminal aspect of the project moves forward to the major project office, which is something you can expect relatively soon, that the major projects office would start its work on that. So there's container capacity, there's other bulk capacity. There are a series of environmental protections, which some don't count, but there are very considerable environmental protections that will be put in place consistent with the environmental assessments that have been done over the years, and fully taking those into account. And there's potential other infrastructure that might make sense, but all of this will come out more directly. So, yeah. So I use the 10 billion figure just to give an overall sighting of the order of magnitude. That's not obviously a final FID figure. Thanks.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Mike Hager, Globe and Mail. PM Carney, upholding the North Coast tanker ban, does that mean that Alberta has abandoned plans for a northern route and is instead focused on a southern route?
Again, I think questions directly with respect to a proposal from Alberta are best answered this afternoon. It's their proposal, their pipeline, obviously working to, and I want to reinforce what the Premier said a few moments ago, in this spirit of cooperative and collaborative federalism, to make things possible, a huge range of things possible. So you can draw your own conclusions, but and you can also wait until this afternoon. I would, but I'm just going to make an observation, and I'll hand to the next person, which is this is a landmark agreement. Not because, I mean, yes, there are aspects here on energy infrastructure that are important, but the LNG developments that are reinforced by this, the absolutely enormous possibilities that are opened up in the in northern BC through the Northern Critical Conservation Corridor with clean energy in that, the critical minerals side of that, the communities that get developed because of that. The entire logistics, the change to the logistics in the Lower Mainland from Massey Tunnel through to Roberts Bank. It's not just Roberts Bank. It's not just, you don't just expand the capacity, obviously, of the port, but then leave aside rail capacity and other components that need for things to work. And that's where the benefits, and then my last point I just make, is there are enormous direct benefits and investments in British Columbia, as is right. There are social benefits from childcare and beyond. There are benefits to Alberta potentially because of energy infrastructure. But there are also fundamental benefits to the entirety of Canada because of a much more effective transportation system, because of the resources that the financial resources this will create in order to provide Canadians with the social services they deserve. Thank you.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, Jared Yeager here with Sitka Media. On your affordable housing plan, so a lot of people, politicians and pundits from across the political spectrum have labeled this a condo bailout. And so, you've had some time to iron out some more of the details. So I'm wondering what benefits, if any, would be seen by developers?
Thanks. I'll take this one. You're hearing directly from developers that this is not what they asked for, and it is not, from their perspective, a bailout. When you buy something that's on liquidation, you don't say to yourself, I'm supporting a bailout for the store. This is an opportunity for us to recognize the reality that people can't wait for housing. We can buy housing at below our construction cost and make it available affordably. And if we don't do it, someone else will do it, large private sector investors, and make them available for rent for profit and then flip them. These condos will be purchased. And so we're seeking to purchase a small number of them to make them available for affordable housing at a price we could not build them for, and on a timeline we could not deliver them on. I would like the opportunity to actually launch this program so that British Columbians and Canadians can see it and see the opportunity that is presented here. As just one example, we have absolutely no plans to do this in Vancouver because the numbers just don't work. And yet much of the critique I hear is about downtown Vancouver developers. So if we could have an opportunity to launch this program, to get people into housing faster, to leverage the ability of government to be able to get people into affordable housing as quickly as possible, I would appreciate that. I think it's an important initiative. And if people hate it, hey, we don't have to do it. But it is a chance for us to make a real difference in the lives of more than 2,000 families.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Federal government pleased to participate in a small way, but in an impactful way. And Minister Robertson is here, a small way, impactful way, in order to create the flexibility to do exactly what the Premier just said. take advantage of distress in some developers, take advantage for the purposes of affordable housing for families in this province. And affordable housing, including with potential rent-to-own model. And in the end, this is, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It's in the actual transaction. If those opportunities present themselves, we've created the flexibility in order to get affordable housing to people at a cheaper price than could be built, we'll do it. If the market shifts, if the opportunity doesn't present itself, then it won't happen. But this is a smart way to do it. And as last thing, I'll just reemphasize: what happens in real estate over time is a bad development becomes a good development on the second or third owner. But in between, there's that opportunity for hardworking families that can't find affordable housing. And I commend the BC government for the idea of creating this, and we're happy to help make that a reality.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, this is for Prime Minister Carney, CBC News, Andrew Lee. Women make up 50% of the labor force, but only 15% of the Red Seal trades in Canada.
Yeah.
What do you say to critics who might say this is a jobs for men?
Well, okay, thank you for that, because this is a critical point. So part of the reason for our Team Canada Strong initiative, and I'm just going to take a moment, Andrew, to explain it for everyone. But just get to the motivation. The motivation, part of the point is exactly that. It's to get more women into the skilled trades. It's to get more young people, obviously, into the skilled trades, disadvantaged other groups into the skilled trades. Now, how do you do that? Part of the way you do it is you create a program at scale. This is $6 billion in funding that's coming into this program for 100,000, up to 100,000 apprenticeships. That's the first way. The second way is you make it seamless. So you start with initial opportunities to get into the labor force, which we work to create. You have a digital system, so your Red Seal book, your ticket, if you will, is digitally is digital. And follows you all the way through. You get the direct apprenticeship experience working with unions, working with technical colleges, but really working with unions. So we're going directly in with the union. So on the job experience, initial job, on the job experience, the training and the certification, and then at the end, help with placement into the first job, and including, because often it's not just the awareness of the opportunity, the seamlessness, but it's also the cost. So one of the things we're including is EI support and a completion bonus. Because another thing that happens with apprenticeships over time is the completion rates are quite low, regardless of who goes in. I mean, they're in the 20%, depends on the province, but let's call it, I'll round it into the 20-25% range. So all of this is designed in order to make it easier to get in, get more women in, more other groups in, and to get those completion rates. We need these. British Columbia will need these workers. And I guess a message, if someone's watching and is interested, these are not jobs. These are careers. The Premier referenced earlier $88 billion specifically that's relevant to this agreement of investment in British Columbia. But we're going to create many, many more opportunities similarly that are going to be built out over the decades. So that's the message.
Just to follow up, Prime Minister Carney, I'm old enough, lost enough hair in this business. I've heard those announcements before saying the encouragement of getting women involved in trades. But statistically, it continues to be a predominantly male-oriented job. How can we make this fair?
Well, you do. I mean, this is... you do need a holistic strategy, so I'll just refer to my previous answer, but also refer to another element that is in this agreement. And one of the things that has held back the level of female participation in the labor force has been the absence of affordable childcare. Now, we have made progress on that, but we also need to have funding at the scale and at the price points in order to get there. And again, you've touched on a very important point, because one of the elements of this cooperation agreement is to look at all aspects, or as many aspects of the economic opportunity, but also the social needs that come with that. there's reference to workers' rights and working with unions. Obviously, there's huge elements in here about inclusive partnerships with Indigenous, but also the child care agreement, the skills agenda, is in here by reference because it's central to achieving some of the outcomes that you just referenced. So thank you. Yeah.
Thanks. I'll just hop in here because British Columbia has spent a lot of time working on how we can encourage more women into the trades. That included engaging with women directly and saying, what can we do? And one of the pieces, certainly all the pieces the Prime Minister mentioned, childcare, trades training, a generational investment trades training in our government at the provincial level, now, as a result of this agreement, partnered up with the federal government's initiative. But one of the pieces that came out of it was and it sounds, it can sound trivial, but it is not in terms of working conditions for women on job sites, is the clear message that we got from the building trades that flush toilets and running water were essential to a comfortable working environment for women on the job site, and for all workers generally, of course, but particularly that their working conditions were not adequate. So we actually put a regulation in place that ensured that this technology, which is readily available, could be provided on job sites. Part of this work is about tracking as well. And so when we have community benefits agreements, when we have project labor agreements, we are tracking with employers the number of women, the number of underrepresented groups, and we are seeking to improve those numbers. Tracking, accountability, listening to women about what they need on the job site. This is all part of our strategy in BC.
We'll have time for one last question. Dernière question.
Thank you very much. Chuck Chang with the Canadian Press. This question is for Prime Minister Carney. How would you respond to those who would characterize what you announced today in BC as a quid pro quo to what you will be announcing with Premier Smith later this afternoon? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think partly the nature of the last response, a series of other things we've touched on, answer that. This is a comprehensive, ambitious, multi-year agreement. It helps with the next phase of this economy. It helps with the transformation of the Canadian economy. I'm going to come back to where I started. This is Canada Strong Day. This is a representation of what we are all trying to accomplish to make Canada more independent, more resilient, more prosperous, more sustainable, more inclusive. And all of those elements are in this agreement. All of those elements were in the Premier's most recent trade mission, ended last night, I think, if I have my time right, to China. All of those elements will be in our discussion with President Marcos, which will begin in a few minutes. It's about capturing the immense potential of this province for the benefit of all the citizens of this province and more broadly all Canadians.
Thank you, Prime Minister. One of the realities of British Columbians is we build big things, we get big things done, and to be honest, we've been a bit quiet about it. Those days are over. We are proud of what we're doing here in British Columbia. When we look at what's happening at the Major Projects Office, the projects that are there, they're BC projects. When we look at the opportunities in the fast-growing markets in Asia, those opportunities run through British Columbia. We are delivering the economic growth and prosperity for the country. When we have our economic strategy, it's called Look West, because we really felt the need to draw attention to what's happening here in British Columbia to the rest of Canada, and particularly to Ottawa. And I will say in this agreement that the federal government, specifically the Prime Minister, has recognized what's happening here in BC. To look at this as an Alberta agreement is again to do a disservice to British Columbia and the remarkable and incredible growth that is happening here in this province. This is a BC agreement about BC projects. It is a commitment to what makes this province amazing, our pristine North Coast. It is a recognition of our role in the cooperative federalism across the country that we play every single day with our ports and infrastructure, and it is a commitment to the next generation that is not just going to continue, but it is going to improve, and people are going to be able to participate. And so I understand Alberta's going to make an announcement tonight. That's Alberta's announcement. This is a BC agreement about BC projects. It, on our math, approaches $20 billion in commitments to this province. It is a generational federal commitment that we have been asking for a long time and have never seen. And I want to thank the Prime Minister for his leadership in helping us deliver it.
This puts an end to our press conference. C'est ce qui met fin à notre conférence de presse. Merci.
Thanks, Tal.